This program is a part of the Full Press Radio Network. Find this and all of Full Press Coverage's shows on fullpressradio.com or free on the Full Press Coverage app, available now on the Apple and Google Play stores.
This is Charles Woodson.
Manning throwing, intercepted in the end zone by Charles Woodson.
And you're listening to the Eye Test for Two.
Welcome to this week's Eye Test for Two, where, yes, I am banging on the drum all day for that Hall of Fame inclusion of Todd is God, Rundgren. I'm Clark Judge.
I'm Ira Kaufman.
And we are both Hall of Fame voters, joined by, Hall of Famer Todd Rundgren in that intro, and Hall of Fame producer Ian Glendon. And soon, very soon, the Boston Herald's Karen Guregian to talk about Tom Brady's return to New England. But first, guys, you know what? Cleveland must have heard us last week. Todd Rundgren made the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Ira, so did Carole King. And Ira, I'll be honest with you, I'm so surprised I could bang on the drum all day.
Cleveland rocks, Clark. Cleveland rocks.
Right.
And Clark, I'm banging on the drum for my man George Thorogood, bad to the bone. He's been doing it for 40 years. And, Mr. Judge, if I had to harbor a guess, I would say after you go to Canton this summer, you might take a late flight back the next day just so you can go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I've been, Ira, but I might take a flight somewhere around October 30th for that Hall of Fame induction. I'm not talking about Canton. Anyway, I'm just glad so that we don't have to complain about this anymore. Okay. On to football. I saw that Hall of Fame GM Ron Wolf this week decried quote unquote diva quarterbacks who've signed long-term deals. And he didn't mention anyone, but I think he's talking about Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Deshaun Watson. I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out, Ira. But the thing that strikes me here is for all the angst that people are talking about these guys, this is nothing new. I mean, Eli Manning forced to trade, remember, in 2004 with the draft. Brett Favre forced a trade in 2008. And Carson Palmer, of course, forced a trade in 2011, despite Mike Brown saying he would never trade him. So this isn't anything new. It's just that we've got more numbers, apparently, than in the past.
It is. And you know what's interesting, Clark, is that it has been publicly identified, the word diva, and not talking about Terrell Owens and his pack of wide receivers.
Yeah, that's right.
It's almost always used for wide receivers. Clark, one year we might have a diva center in the National Football League.
I don't think we'll be around long enough for that, Ira. Hey, by the way, Ira, do you agree with him? Do you agree with Ron?
I do a little bit because, Clark, to tell you the truth, in some of these cases, I'm not sure what the beef is. I'm not really sure what the problem is. Aaron Rodgers has the best receiver in football playing with him.
Right.
He's healthy, and they won 13 games. Well, what are you bitching about?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think it's a long-term commitment with him, but some other cases is simply trying to go somewhere where you can win. Well, win where you are. I mean, that's what Tom Brady did. Anyway, I also see that the Chiefs are favored in 16 of their first 17 games, or of their 17 games, I guess, this year. But Ira, has anyone ever heard of a Super Bowl jinx? There is a Super Bowl jinx. You know about it. I mean, other than New England, if you don't have Tom Brady and you lose the Super Bowl, you ain't going back the next year, because the only team other than the 2018 New England Patriots, led by Ian Glendon's Tom Brady, that did it was the 1993, or the last team, the 1993 Buffalo Bills. It's a long time. It's over 2 decades.
NFL history is against the Chiefs. But I'll say this, Clark, they have a very dynamic front office. That guy knows what he's doing, Veach. Andy Reid works very well with him. And you know what? They didn't sit on their hands, Clark, after that abomination at Raymond James Stadium. They totally revamped the offensive line. This offense looks really scary to me. Scary.
Yeah, it looked scary last year, too, until they ran into a scary defense in Tampa Bay. Hey, Ira, who's your number 2 in the AFC?
Buffalo. Buffalo, I think they're coming on strong. And
How about you? Okay.
Yeah, I think people forget they had the Chiefs 9-0 in that AFC title game and then fell apart. But I think they're coming on.
How about you, Ian? Who's your number 2?
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Buffalo. I mean, they're the team that's ascending. I'd like to see. I think it's going to be a strong conference, though. I think New England's going to be better. I think Miami is going to be better. That division alone is going to be pretty strong. But I got to give the edge to Buffalo. I'm
going to go out on a limb here and say, yeah, Buffalo. But watch out for the Chargers. I think the Chargers could really push Kansas City in that division. And I also think the Browns will be a good team. I mean, I think of those teams, you're going to get a AFC conference champ somewhere in there. Anyway, the schedule out last week, of course, we all know Tampa Bay, New England is the marquee game. But what's the second most interesting game that you saw on that schedule, Ira?
For me, it's the night of October 10th, Clark, Arrowhead Stadium, and the aforementioned Buffalo Bills. Rematch of the AFC title game. Clark, they're up 9-0. Now, we've watched a lot of Chiefs games, Clark, the last 4 years. 9-0, and before you know it, it's a 38-6 blitz.
Yeah.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Kelsey's going crazy. You know, they can't stop Hill. They can't stop Kelsey. And the next thing you know, they're down 38-15. They lose 38-24. But I love Josh Allen, Clark. I think he's coming on really fast, and he put together a fantastic season. If he gets a little bit better, look out.
Ian, other than the other 16 New England games, what's your number 2 game on the schedule?
I got to go with the Cowboys and the Bucs to kick it off. I mean, you might as well. I mean, you got to it's going to be a good matchup. I'm glad Dak Prescott's going to be there. I know Dallas doesn't really have a defense that I think is going to be able to stop Tampa, so maybe this is coming from a Tom Brady standpoint, but I'm looking forward to that game because I think they're going to put on a clinic, and it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, it will be entertaining. I'm kind of interested in Cam's return to Carolina. I think that's going to happen in early November. It's not exactly Brady going back to Foxborough, but I think that'll be interesting, and I'll take either of the Chargers-Chiefs games. I think Mahomes versus Justin Herbert's a great game. Okay, lastly, guys, going back now to Brady's return to New England. We all know about that, but you may not know, or listeners may not know, there's a secondary market for tickets is anywhere from $1,200 to $5,000, the highest for any regular season game in NFL history. Ira, if you were going to that game, what would you pay?
I think $18.50, and I don't mean $18.50. This is a historic game, Clark. It is, and there's a reason people are already talking about it. You know, all these months in advance, because Brady and Belichick are so iconic.
Yeah,
Clark. You know, nobody's paying to see Kyle Van Noy. Go against Tristan Wirfs. It's Brady and Belichick, and I would pay a lot of money for this matchup. Now, Ian, you might empty your bank account for this one.
Yeah, that's right.
I got to do a little bit more work to be able to afford these tickets. I was in my head trying to figure out a number that I would go up to because I'm going to be up in Massachusetts in October, not that early. So it would had to add a couple extra days to my vacation on top of everything. But that's a steep price to pay. But you know what? I'd pay it. I'd pay $1,200 for nosebleed seats. I might regret it afterwards, but going into it, I'd be happy with it.
Plus, you're making the big bucks, Ian. You
yeah, of course,
it, right?
Of course.
Well, our next guest won't have to pay anything to see that game. I'm talking about Karen Guregian, who covers the Patriots for the Boston Herald and does a bang-up job. Karen, the buildup for this game has already begun, and I guess I'm in New England. I'm in Connecticut, but I'm not close to Foxborough, about an hour and a half away. What's it like in the Boston area or the Foxborough area, or maybe just all of Massachusetts, now that game's on the schedule? And what kind of reception should Tom Brady expect when he steps on the field?
That is a great question. You would think that somebody who had spent 20 years in the same place, took the franchise to 9 Super Bowls, won 6, and is arguably the greatest quarterback to ever walk the earth, would get a lot of appreciation. But, I don't know. I saw Adam Vinatieri get booed. So, it's just so hard to gauge what's going to be on the minds of Patriot fans. There's some people who actually think he's a traitor, which I think is a huge reach. But, we'll see. I think if people take a step back, this is in all likelihood the final game he'll ever play at Foxborough Stadium, whether in the Patriots uniform or outside of the Patriots organization. And I'm on the side that you give the man a proper tribute as opposed to booing him out of the stadium.
Yeah, so are we, I think. In fact, I'd be shocked, honestly, if that weren't the case. But it's Boston, so I don't know, or Boston area. I don't know. If it were in Philadelphia, I know what the reception would be. But this is a different market.
Well, as I said, they booed Adam Vinatieri. And who's more of a Super Bowl hero than him? Especially in those early situations, those first 3.
Yeah.
So again, if that's the guide, I'm afraid there'll be at least a smattering of boos for Brady, which again seems ridiculous.
Well, we talked at the outset of this podcast about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You don't need to get into that, but I used to go to a lot of concerts and would sit out the night before, or sometimes camp out the night before, to get a ticket or get there as early as possible. Could you see people camping out the night before here, or I don't know if general admissions seats go on sale, whatever, doing the same sort of thing for this game? The market must be out of sight.
For sure. And let's remember, it's October,
right,
opposed to December, or, when it's much colder and a bigger possibility to be sitting out in a blizzard. So, October, I can certainly see people, camping out and either trying to get in or just trying to be a part of the atmosphere.
We'll look for you outside in a tent, Karen.
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't know. It might be tough to get into the stadium that night, My goodness.
Karen, there's so much history and theories about what happened with Brady's departure. Karen, I want to hear it from you as an insider. I offer a very simple explanation, but I'm 1,000 miles away. Karen, to me, Brady spent a couple of months after the 2019 season, Karen, waiting to hear one positive word from Bill Belichick, one indication that Belichick wanted him back as a Patriot in 2020, and he never got it, Karen. He never got it. And to me, that had to sting. So why is Tom Brady a Buccaneer, in your opinion?
Well, part of the reason stems from exactly what you said. He never felt the love from his head coach, especially when it came to his contract. And this wasn't just 2019 going into 2020. This was after he won the Super Bowl against the Rams, or, he's looking to, which Super Bowl number 6, he was looking for a legitimate contract. So again, his desire was to play to 45. He was over 40, but still winning Super Bowls, and he just wanted some kind of show from the organization that they had some faith in him. But Belichick, again, was only going to go 1 year at a time for him. He didn't want to pay him big money. Again, he's over 40. He's going to fall off that cliff any minute. And I just think it hit a peak with Brady, having to run up against that same wall year after year after year. As a matter of fact, more to your point, he and Belichick, before the free agent process or around the time he became a free agent, had a conversation. And my information is Belichick was like, well, you already have a deal. We already have a number, take it or leave it kind of thing. So again, yes, it's business. Yes, Belichick has a way of doing business, and, he likes to get rid of people before their time. And Brady understood all that. But again, he was still either winning Super Bowls or in getting that team to the big game. And they didn't show him the type of respect that he was looking for. So he had it put into the previous deal that they couldn't franchise him, which would allow him, to head into free agency if they couldn't reach an accord. So that's why he went to Tampa.
Karen, taking it to the 2021 Patriots, Mac Jones is aboard. Cam Newton has been retained. Karen, they threw 12 touchdown passes as an organization last year. Mm-hmm. The Packers threw 48. I mean, that is quite a disparity. 12 is a ridiculous low number, no matter how good the New England defense is under Belichick. Can Newton retain his job, and for how long, Karen?
Well, I think Bill Belichick loves him some Cam Newton. I mean, I can see no other reason for bringing him back, except for the fact that with another year in the system, he might actually know the offense or learn the offense, as opposed to having to start from scratch with somebody else. And I also think that Belichick believes that Cam was hampered by coming in late. He was hampered by COVID. And he thinks with a better cast around him, he'll throw more than 8 touchdown passes, which was his total last year. Although I think he ran for 12. So I think as Belichick...
That's great, Karen, if you're a running back.
Right. Well, I think as Belichick stated to us during our one media session with him this year, that Cam was the quarterback, was the starter unless somebody actually beats him out. So, will Jones beat him out? Well, I think, again, we'll have to see how he does in these camps. We'll see how he looks. Of all the big stud quarterbacks in the draft, he appeared the most pro-ready of the group. But again, you have to see it in action. And it's odd a little bit that the Patriots would go after a quarterback that's kind of the polar opposite of Cam Newton. But, we'll just have to see how it plays out. But you know what? They just re-upped and signed Brian Hoyer. And, I think beyond getting by this season with Cam, if they can, the obvious priority is getting Mac Jones ready to assume the mantle. And bringing back Brian Hoyer helps him do that.
We're speaking with Karen Guregian of the Boston Herald on the Eye Test for Two. And Karen, a couple things since you mentioned Cam Newton. First, Bill Belichick may love him some Cam Newton, but the fact that he drafted Mac Jones with a first-round pick, first time that's ever happened, means he doesn't love him that much, because it tells you that at some point this year, he's probably going to sit down. I'm talking about Cam Newton. That's been the history of first-round draft picks in the past, of course, with the exception of someone like a Jordan Love last year. But secondly, just moving on to Cam Newton specifically here, there's another big game on that New England schedule that no one's really talking about, and that's Cam Newton returning to Carolina November 7th. Now, I don't know if he's going to be the starter or not by that time, but that's a big game for Carolina. And I know it's not of the same magnitude as Brady going home to New England, but Cam Newton was beloved there, took him to a Super Bowl, and was a league MVP. So if he is a starter, I would think that would be a big game too.
Without question. And I think, another reason or rationale for Coach Belichick bringing Cam back is that, I think, Cam is a prideful guy, and he doesn't want last year to kind of be the lasting image of him. Mm-hmm. And he also thinks he was wronged in Carolina at the end, that they didn't stick with him. So I think, and from what I know from talking to some people, that Cam is motivated, beyond motivated, to prove the doubters wrong. And it should perhaps, if he's still the quarterback, hit a crescendo in that return to Carolina.
So let's go back to the Brady versus Patriots game for a moment. Football's a team game, right? Everyone tells us it's a team game. But I'll tell you what, this sure seems like mano-a-mano grudge match. Brady versus Belichick. Who do you think the pressure is more intense on? Is it on Brady to win this game, or is it on Belichick to win it?
I think it's on Belichick, mostly because Brady already showed him up last year by joining a new team and immediately, right out of the gate, winning a Super Bowl. And it wasn't just any team. It was one of the losingest franchises in the history of the NFL. So, Brady won all the points last year. There's no question about it. Maybe Belichick got a little bit of leeway, for having to, move on without the quarterback. But I still think Brady winning is coming in with a ring with another team. So I think the burden is more on Belichick to win that game.
Karen, there's been some speculation. Karen, tell me whether you think this stuff has any credibility. But is there any chance, Karen, that as the summer progresses and Atlanta makes it known that maybe Julio Jones is available, that Bill would have some interest in bringing in a proven receiver of that caliber to actually help Cam along with this offense?
Well, I think he would bring anyone in, but it would have to be on someone, especially a Julio Jones, but it'd have to be on his terms and at a huge hometown discount. I know he went against type and spent a fortune in free agency, but he had the money to spend, and he had a lot of holes to fill. And, he's pretty much filled the holes. Yes, Julio Jones would be a great addition to this offense and make them even better. But I don't think Bill, he doesn't like to pay the freight for anyone. And unless he was getting him on some kind of hometown discount, or if Julio Jones was coming here just to try to win and take way under what he's worth, I cannot see it happening.
Karen, what's going on the defensive side of the ball? 2 years ago, Karen, New England had the best defense in football. Gilmore was the defensive player of the year. You couldn't throw against them. The run defense was strong. They won 12 games. Can Kyle Van Noy, Karen, make a major difference coming back from Miami after a 1-year hiatus?
Well, he'll make some difference, but I think collectively what they did that essentially rebuilt the defensive front, primarily to be able to try and stop the run, which they couldn't do at all last year. Having Devin Godchow in the middle and Henry Anderson, bringing back Lawrence Guy, the additions, drafting the kid from Alabama. I think in addition to bringing back Kyle Van Noy and also having Dante Hightower, who opted out last year, I think the collective is going to make that defense better, not just one player. Because they need their front seven stunk last year, and I think rebuilding the front seven, and getting Hightower back should get them back in pretty good stead.
Karen, I've got a couple last questions for you. First, as we know, and we've said, Cam Newton's going to open the season at quarterback. But who, in your estimation, will be the quarterback at the end of the season? And secondly, do the Patriots return to the playoffs this year?
Well, I'll answer the first question, the second question first. I do think they're going to be a playoff team. It'll take a while for them to gel, but because there are so many new faces on both sides of the ball. But I think the way Belichick typically builds a team or has his team run throughout the year, they're constantly building so they peak toward the end of the season. And given all the new faces, they will probably be just getting the hang of things at the right time. And they're going to be, I think they're going to be a really hard to beat team to beat once December rolls around. Will Kim be the quarterback? Well, it comes down to this. If they're winning and he's not making a ton of mistakes and he's getting the job done, it's hard for me to see Belichick inserting a rookie in there with them winning. If Cam is the Cam from last year, it'll be a matter of when, not if, he replaces him. So Belichick is going to put the guy in there who thinks gives them the best chance to win. Right now, that's Cam. But as the season progresses, it might not be.
And one last one here. That game, Brady versus Belichick, Tampa Bay versus New England, is going to be October 3rd, which is over 5 months distance. I've got the over-under on stories you're going to write about that game at 150. You taking the over or you taking the under?
I would take the over.
Me
might
too.
be 150 in that week alone.
Karen, I got one more. Karen, thanks so much for your time, Karen. Karen, I'm going to ask you about a guy. This is a very Hall of Fame centric show. And a guy that I think was a little bit underpublicized, underrated by virtue of his position, guard. But you saw him play, Karen, at his peak. Ironically, he spent his final 2 NFL seasons right here in Tampa. But I'm talking about Logan Mankins, 7 Pro Bowls. Karen, you saw him as the linchpin of that offensive line for so many years.
Yep.
I think he might have also played tackle 1 year in an emergency situation. So, Karen,
on a broken leg, go ahead.
A broken leg, Karen, for your money, does Logan Mankins deserve a gold jacket?
Oh, I think so. Again, he was elite. He was the best guard in the league for quite some time. And he brought a toughness and, dare I say, nasty element to their line, which was all part and parcel of the success of the offense in that team. It's not, yes, Brady was huge and significant, and they don't win without Brady. But you know what? There's just as many important factors around Brady that has contributed to their success. And I don't think, whether it's guys on the offensive line or guys on the defense, I don't know what voters think, except voters must think it's just all Brady. But you know what? Watch the games. Watch the games. Watch what Richard Seymour, who still can't get in, did during those first 3 Super Bowls. Watch their offensive line. Watch Logan Mankins during his time. Again, Brady has to be protected to be able to throw the football, even though he has the quickest release in the league. But still, you need the protection, particularly on the left side. And no one was better than Logan Mankins during his day.
Karen Guregian, thanks so much for the time. On behalf of all 3 of us, I think we envy you being at that October 3rd game. But one word of caution: no cheering in the press box, Karen.
Yeah. I will take that under advisement.
Karen, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
That was Karen Guregian of the Boston Herald. And Ian, you're a longtime Patriots fan. I agree with her on the pressure being more on Belichick than Brady, because Brady's already made his point. He already made his point. He can win without Belichick. Can Belichick win without him? I think there is more pressure on the head coach here in this game.
Absolutely. I mean, again, just from the surface, just looking at what happened last year, one player went to the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. The other, well, not the player, but the coach didn't make the playoffs. So I think very surface, yes, it is Brady versus Belichick, with Brady with the slight 1-0 lead.
Yeah, Ira, do you agree?
I do. I absolutely agree. Now, Clark, you and I, not Ian, but you and I are old enough to remember the build-up for the Dolphins-Bears game.
Oh, yeah.
Clark, that would be what, 85?
85, yeah. It's the only loss the Bears had that year.
Yeah, the unbeaten Bears going into Miami with Marino. And that game had a lot of build-up, Clark, but not 3 months ahead of time.
Not 3 months ahead of time. And then there was Manning going back to Indy in 2013. In 1994, I covered the 49ers when Steve Young went to Kansas City to play Joe Montana. That was a big game and was build up Montana versus Young. And as we know, Montana won the game. Young won the Super Bowl. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. But tune in tomorrow when Ira is going to introduce us to one of the NFL's most successful general managers. So who is it? We'll find out on tomorrow's Eye Test for Two, when we will be banging on the drum all day. Thank you then.